Thank you for that introduction. It's very kind. It's Bret Schanzenbach, but it looks a lot worse than it actually is, so I understand that. And yes, I'm the President and CEO of the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, so it's great to have you all here with us today in Carlsbad. And when SDAR approached us about doing an event together, I was very interested for multiple reasons. So, full disclosure, I spent 8 years as a full-time realtor. It's been about 12 years since I left the industry, and most of the twitching is gone. So a lot of therapy, but I'm getting there. No, just kidding. I do refer to myself as a realtor in recovery now. But I know from my time in the industry how much you as professionals are a gateway to communities. People looking to switch communities locally, or of course coming from outside the area, they're hounding you with questions. What are the schools like here? What's the crime like? What are the amenities? What's this area like? And so you guys get asked, you're the front lines for a lot of people coming to new areas. And so I love doing this together to be able to share about what our communities here in the coastal region have to offer. And I found when I was in real estate full time, people, they drive by and they'd see a construction fence pop up somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, you're in real estate. What's going on at such and such?" Like, I don't know, like, how should I know just because a construction fence pops up? But it happens all the time. So I love being very involved in my local chamber at that time because I got to find out what was going on, and it was a great source of information to me about developments going on in the community. So I offer that remark in addition to what was shared about encouraging you to consider becoming active in your local Chamber of Commerce. And we would love to have you at the Carlsbad Chamber, of course. All the local chambers are very good. Ours is the best. But to incentivize you to come and join our chamber, I talked with Ryan, and so for any SDAR member, if you're a broker and your brokerage wants to be a member of our chamber, as for your firm, we'd offer a 10% discount. And if you're an individual agent and you want to join separate from your broker, 20% discount to our rates as an SDAR member. So we'd love to have you. Yes. I value my real estate members a lot, and I love talking shop with them. Not being directly in the industry anymore. So, that being said, I'm excited today because we have two great guests that are going to be joining us from North County to share about our coastal community. The first one is one I work with very closely, Mayor Matt Hall. Each of these guests are going to share for about 10 to 15 minutes on their community, and then I have a few questions I'm going to ask them as a group, as a panel, where they will respond to things going on in their communities. And if there's still time after that, we'll take audience questions. Might not be time because of the tight agenda today. But the first speaker is one I work with a lot, Mayor Matt Hall from the city of Carlsbad. He's been serving as the mayor since 2010. He was on city council for 16 years prior to that. He's third generation North County resident. He's a veteran, he's a business owner, and he's a public servant, and I'm very proud to have him as the mayor of Carlsbad. So please welcome Mayor Matt Hall.
Thank you. So it's always exciting when I come to these events. My staff usually gives me about somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour's worth of talking points, but I never really get into what I'm going to say until I actually walk up on stage. So I have a lot of data that I would like to give you, but in all honesty, Alan just gave you most of it. And so I'm going to take things at a fairly high level, and then I will dive down into some of the data. But it's just, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here today. And one of the things that Bret and I have kind of talked about over this last year, in many cases, it's been the worst of times. But Carlsbad tried its best to make it the best of times. And so we've worked hard in our business community and with people in and around the community, first of all, to keep us COVID safe, and our numbers were always at the very lowest. The other is to work with our business communities to make sure that they're very prosperous or stay prosperous. And I think in many cases, with the exception of the tourism industry, we kind of hit it out of the park. So on your table, I was noticing there's this magazine. So if you open it to the Coastal Carlsbad page, that's about a third of my speech there, and you can just go through that and kind of look at those numbers. But before I get into some of the detail, people often ask, why is Carlsbad what it is today? If you go back in Carlsbad, some of you here do have the history, but back in 1985, one of the biggest subjects in town was growth is out of control. Guess what people are saying today? Growth is out of control. But what we did was we took time as a community to set the vision of where we wanted to be at some point in time. We never put a date to it. We created what was called a growth management plan. That plan had a lot of detail in it, a lot of high standards. But most importantly, anything that was built about after 1990, the development community financed it. Meaning as when the homes were built, so were the roads on or before, so were the water lines on or before, sewer, and on down through the whole list of things. And so when I say it was built to build out standards, not just what your master plan or specific plan called for. So we were really designing and building for the future. So over time, you can see how this is played out. Everything from schools to roads. I think if you look at it, it's very, very highly rated. When you think of growth, one of the things that I think if you could fault the city of Carlsbad for is we overbuilt our business community. Today we're about 114, 115,000 people. We have almost 80,000 jobs. SDAR is actually penalizing us because we didn't build enough houses to meet our business community. Why did we do that? We did that with the understanding that a strong business community, business pays all the tax one way or another. They are the engine that drives any economy as our business community. So we've always had a very, very strong working relationship with our business community dating back many, many years, and we do still to this day. In fact, this year during COVID, I have never seen these two agencies, along with our Merchants Association, work so close together on some of the decisions we were making. So as we look to the future, what is Carlsbad all about? Obviously, our business and our tech industries this year did exceedingly well. I mean, we just cut the ribbon on Quidel. It took over what was the golf building? Anyway, 128 128,000 square feet. They came to us 10 months ago and started. They're actually today, a 128,000 square foot building, producing product. They will make over 600 COVID test kits a year. They are over 400 new jobs. So it's businesses like that. Before them, about a month before, was Thermo Fisher. Went in and did 67,000 square feet and 150 jobs. So it's how we work with our business communities to get them through the process that really helps make things work. Tourism is one of the areas that has fallen off. There's no doubt about it. In TOT, we're down about $10 million. You see this room we're in today? This room was built during COVID. In fact, almost every one of our hotels, the Park Hyatt, of course the Omni here, all the 10 Stripes, the Westin, the Sheraton, the Hiltons along the coast, all did major remodeling through that period of time. So it was a win for many different ways. There was a lot of construction going on. Obviously there wasn't as much tourism. In this last quarter, from July through October, our tourism has never been stronger. We had one of the best quarters ever. So the industry is coming back. Employment, he went through the employment numbers. Carlsbad is still probably one of the lowest. We're running about 4.7%, and you heard what the numbers were in the last presentation. There were 13,246 job postings in Carlsbad between July and September. So there is a lot of need for employment. And when I speak of employment, I want to step back for a minute. And how many of you have heard of Innovate 78? Where the cities of Oceanside, Vista, Carlsbad, San Marcos, and Escondido came together on or about 2010. And why did we do that? Prior to that, we were competitors. If we could take the business from Oceanside and get it to Carlsbad, we changed that. And we decided we wanted to grow as a region versus individual cities. Why would you do that? Because there was no one city that had all the assets it needed to be the best it could be. Going back to my numbers for jobs, we have not got the housing for all the jobs that we need. So working in and around the other cities, we became more of a region-based than a city-based. And I will assure you, in 2010, jobs was a very, very important topic. Also, in North County, there's always been a challenge to get our regional tax dollars through the SDAR agency. So we became united with our supervisor, and then it was Bill Horn, today it's Jim Desmond, to ensure that those numbers, the fair numbers, do come to North County. And those most recently, as things have gotten challenging, especially around the homelessness, how do we not only individually as cities work on homeless, but how do we work as a region? And it was just most recently in the paper how the supervisors came together along with 5 cities to get us 15 people to help work with each of our cities, each as if we were one. And truly that makes a difference when you're trying to think how we address that issue. And that is one of the leading issues today. Income. 2019, our average income was $123,409. That's about $44,000 higher than the county median. The Carlsbad median income and the county median income grew by about $11,768. So the city is actually outperforming as we look forward. One of the things that has become concerning to us, and we'll talk about a little bit later, is when you think of growth, and by the way, the last 10 years has been the lowest residential growth over the last 35 years in Carlsbad, but it's been one of the greatest when you think of business and how much business has grown, it's just been way over the top. Quite often over $1 billion a year. Some of the projects, when you think about what's Carlsbad look like in the future, some of the projects that we're working on right now is the Buena Vista Reservoir Park. Again, a developer needed space or open space to mitigate a project, built a park in our north quadrant at Buena Vista Reservoir site. That is now open. We're working on Veterans Park. That's our last big regional park. That should break ground sometime next year, right at the corner of Faraday and Cannon. And then most importantly, which we've been working on for quite some time, we're trying to create a linear park all the way from, let's say, the power plant, from the power plant all the way to Acadia. Almost a 3-mile linear park. So that's just some of the things that we have on the future of who we are and what we're doing. We're still trying to trench the tracks, And most importantly, I think at the end of the day, what has made us so special is our ability to collaborate with our neighbors and our business community to try and build a city second to none. So I'm going to stop at that point. What I like most is questions, and I look forward for you giving me those, and so we can dive deeper into the detail. So with that, I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. And I know a lot of you are like I was when I was in real estate. I always wanted to sell stuff in Carlsbad because it was great price point, great product, great amenities, and that continues. But I think the point he made about Innovate 78 is very true. There's a lot of collaboration amongst the communities now, which is wonderful because you know from working with your clients, maybe they're renting in this community here and they have a job over there. And if the job moves, they still want to be able to work with it. So better for that company to move just along this corridor in this area than move all the way up to LA or Long Beach or out of state or to Texas or wherever. So that collaboration is very important from an economic development standpoint. And our next speaker is from our community just to the north of us, from the city of Oceanside. We have Jonathan Borrego. Jonathan is the Deputy City Manager and Development Services Director for the city of Oceanside. He oversees city's planning, building, and engineering functions. He has more than 30 years of land use planning experience, and he previously served as the planning manager for the city of Anaheim. So please welcome Jonathan Borrego.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here this morning. I really appreciate the audience and everyone coming out this morning. My presentation is going to be a little different than Mayor Hall's. What I plan on doing this morning is sharing some of the exciting things that we have going on in the city of Oceanside. I think that you'll find once I'm done with my presentation that we have quite a bit of activity happening, a lot of exciting projects on the horizon. As you'll hear during my presentation, thankfully our city fared very well during COVID, not only from an economic standpoint, but also from a development standpoint as well. So just a few quick facts about Oceanside here, 42 square miles, population of about 180,000, median age about 37, housing units 63,485, and average household income about $105,000. Again, just some quick facts here about the city. As you can see, we have a pretty strong business community, quite a number of jobs. Our top business clusters are in healthcare, biotech, action sports, equipment manufacturing. And some of you probably know we have a reputation as a premier location for surfboard manufacturing, of all things, and also food and beverage manufacturing and tourism. Our vacancy rates have held up pretty well. As you can see here, surprisingly, our vacancy rates have continued to drop over the last reporting period. We have a particular pinch in our industrial end. You'll hear me talk about that in the near future. Certainly that is an ongoing challenge for us looking out into the future, and we do have some plans to try and help us with that. In terms of some of our notable vacancies that we have that are going to be coming into development in the near future, we do have a Coast Highway building, the former North County Times, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It was recently in the news. We have some exciting development concepts there. And then also we have a 30-acre site out in Ocean Ranch, which is our premier business park. You may have heard about that one recently as well. There was an Amazon fulfillment center that had been proposed on that, and our city council elected not to support that use. They were interested in something that was going to provide more jobs. In terms of our revenue sources, again, just a little bit of background here. Primary revenue sources are property taxes, our sales and use taxes are also fairly strong, and you'll hear me talk a little bit about this in greater detail here. Year-to-year comparisons, as you can see, as I mentioned, we did quite well during COVID, surprisingly. We have a lot of retail, a lot of big box retail, a lot of grocery stores. We did actually very well in that sector. during COVID. We also have a strong restaurant market, especially in the convenience food market, so we actually did very well. Happy to say that we actually ended this last fiscal year with the largest budget surplus in the city's history, which is actually quite amazing. Coming out of COVID, we were very, very surprised and very pleased, which in turn means that we will be able to invest a lot of that money into our community. But we did actually pass a local sales tax measure, a half-cent sales tax that's funded for a period of 7 years. Estimated that half-cent sales tax, known as Measure X, is going to generate about $103 million, primarily invested into maintenance and public safety. We have a number of projects that are being funded through the sales tax revenue. We do have a Citizens Oversight Committee that is actively involved in terms of budgeting that money. And it's been very successful because of the strong sales tax that we realized over this past year. It's actually exceeding expectations in terms of the revenue that is being generated. The next series of slides that I have are just different projects that are ongoing in the city. Some of them you've heard about, others perhaps not. I'm going to start with some of the public investments that we are making in our community. But before that, I just wanted to also quickly mention some of the business activities that we had done to support our business community during COVID. Working closely with our chamber and Main Street Oceanside, which is the largest, most successful Main Street organization in the state of California. We actually worked very closely in partnership with our local businesses and had a very successful program in terms of distributing loans and other grant assistance during COVID, which paid great dividends. Some of the things taking place in Oceanside, we have an aquatic center that just opened up at El Corazon Park, competition-sized pool and instructional pool, splash pad, and an 8,500 square foot community center at El Corazon. Again, these are public projects. We're doing quite a bit in our beachfront area, particularly near the pier. We are just wrapping up what we call phase 1, which is essentially a community leasing station, maintenance facility, an enhanced public plaza area, and community resource area. We are working on phase 2, which is looking at our band shell, amphitheater, and junior stay-out community center, and actively working with the community to re-envision that area as well. Within this past year, we recently implemented a quiet zone in our downtown area, which was a huge improvement. It's amazing how it changed the quality of life overnight once the trains stopped blowing their horns at the Oceanside Transit Center. Champagne bottles were popping that night. There were so many people. This project was a long time coming, but it really has been a game changer, especially with all the residential investment that we see going on in downtown Oceanside. I'm also thrilled to report that we do have a property business improvement district in our downtown area. That was actually approved by the landowners in the downtown area. It covers about 190 properties in the downtown area. It's expected to generate between $370,000 and $417,000 annually within the local downtown business area. And most of that money is going to be used for enhanced maintenance and public safety in the downtown area. It's already started and it's been quite successful as well. We are working on a Coast Highway Corridor Improvement Plan. Many of you may have heard about this. It's unfortunately been hung up with the Coastal Commission for the last couple of years. But it was approved by our City Council. It involves narrowing Coast Highway from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. Installing a number of traffic roundabouts, and then also doing some enhanced landscaping and pedestrian improvements along the corridor as well. The goal here is to really kind of slow down traffic, which we believe strongly is actually going to improve our local business community downtown. Right now, cars kind of fly down Coast Highway, our stretch of Coast Highway anyway. By slowing traffic, improving the landscaping, the aesthetics, we think that it's going to make some fundamental changes to the nature of downtown along Coast Highway. But we also have a Coast Highway Incentive District that is also pending final certification by the Coastal Commission. It was approved by our City Council. It incentivizes mixed-use development along our stretch of Coast Highway from north to south. We've already seen some development take place as a result of the Incentive District. We're also working on a beach sand replenishment and retention device project. You may have heard about this. It has generated quite a bit of news over the summer. Essentially what we are looking at is some long-term solutions towards keeping the sand on our beaches, which has been a particular challenge because of the Camp Pendleton boat basin, which was built almost 80 years ago, which essentially depleted our city of natural sand movement. We are just in the preliminary stages. We got to go ahead from our city council to work on this project. It'll include a combination of sand replenishment and some sand retention devices, otherwise known as groins. It is a project that's going to require a lot of coordination at the regional level, including with our immediate neighbors, Carlsbad, of course, being one of them. We're just going to be launching our public outreach and regional coordination efforts to get the word going on this project as well. It is a science-based program. We actually work very closely with Scripps to come up with a framework for the project. It is cutting edge. People say that it'll never get to the Coastal Commission, but we're going to give it our best shot. In terms of some of the private development activity taking place, I'm sure some of you, or many of you, are aware of the 2 large resort hotels which were recently completed. Construction took place during COVID, which was amazing. It was amazing how fast these hotels actually went up. 2 premier hotels right along our coastline on Pacific Street, a total of 387 rooms. The first being the Cbad Resort, and the second being the Mission Pacific Hotel. Huge amenities, wonderful location. If you've had a chance to visit them, the views from these properties are amazing, especially from the rooftop bar. We also have a premier restaurant that just opened up in the Mission Pacific known as Valle, and I encourage you to go there. It's an incredible leading location. Of course, we have the Top Gun house, which was part of this project as well. It was moved from its historic site. That is a site that was filmed, a portion was filmed in the movie Top Gun, and it was actually relocated and incorporated into the project. It'll become a dessert shop once it's open later this year. Some of the things that have also happened recently, we did have Scripps, which recently built a medical campus near Jefferson Vista, about a 96,000 square foot medical building. Tremont Collective, really excited about this project. It actually opened up in South Oceanside within the last month. An adaptive reuse of an existing industrial building, a very cool project done by Fabric Investments. We have Brixton, Communal Coffee, Craft, a number of shops. By all accounts, it's hugely successful, generating a lot of customer traffic, which is really neat to see in this environment. Different other hotel projects coming on in the downtown area. This is a 10-room boutique hotel, which is under construction right now. The building was originally built in 1888 as a hardware store. It's now under construction. It'll be a 10-room boutique hotel known as the Bret. Downstairs is going to be Frankie's Cocktail Lounge, which is now open, and it replaced a real problem bar for us in the downtown area that was generating a ton of police calls, so we're really thrilled when that shut down and Frankie's opened up in its place. A couple of other little projects here. Arroyo Verde Commercial Center, 21,000 square feet, right across from El Corazon Park into Oceanside Boulevard and Rancho del Oro. This is a fun project, Ocean Camp. I'm sure you've heard about this as well. On a 92-acre site, former drive-in site on Mission Avenue, or actually Highway 76 at Fusat. This project is going through the entitlement phase. It's going to include a 300-room hotel. Some of the other things going on, also in the downtown area, Green Room Hotel, another adaptive reuse of a little hotel property. A lot of stuff going on in Mission Avenue. I'm kind of zipping through these slides in the interest of time because there's a number of things to go over here. Some additional investments in Artist Alley in the downtown area, including a Handel's Ice Cream Shop, which we're really excited about, which is going to take the place of what used to be called the Breakfast Club restaurant right across from City Hall. In addition, we have a number of investments going on in the downtown area in our Pierside area, Pierside South and Pierside North. Excited that we were able to get JS Industries Surfboards to move their headquarters from Australia into Oceanside. This just opened up in a 6,000 square foot building on Wisconsin Street, a stone's throw from the beach. Very excited to have them on board in South Oceanside. In terms of some of the things happening in the future, the project that I'm the most excited about is at our Oceanside Transit Center. In working with the North County Transit District, they went out on an RFP to introduce transit-oriented development on the Oceanside Transit Center site, which is a 10-acre property, probably an eighth of a mile from the beach, right near the hotels. Fantastic location. Couldn't think of a better location for transit-oriented development. The Toll Brother plans, which are just now going through the entitlement process, include about roughly 650 residential units. North County Transit District is moving their headquarters from Mission Avenue down to this property, about a 40,000 square foot building. There's also a boutique hotel proposed as part of that, as well as some retail space. So really excited about this. Again, we think it's going to be quite a game changer for Oceanside and really get the downtown going even more crazy than it already is. The amount of development, development interest in our downtown area is off the charts, I can tell you that. Also have a CarMax that'll soon start construction on right off the 78, just east of College. Really excited about that. They should start grading, rough grading within the next couple of weeks. The ends of Buena Vista Creek, right on the border with Carlsbad. Pleased to hear that Carlsbad recently approved the portion of the entitlement package, thank you, Mayor Hall, for this project, which straddles both cities. This project includes 3 hotels totaling 426 rooms right next to the mall on about 12.5 acres. Right now, they're looking at, the property owner is envisioning a Hampton Homewood and Embassy Suites on that property. This one still has to get to the Coastal Commission, by the way, so no timetable there. Arena Calafino, another great project that we're really excited about at El Corazon Park, about an 8,000, have about a crowd of about 8,000 spectators, home of the San Diego Sockers, privately financed, actively working on getting ready to start construction, fully entitled. We expect them to start grading right around the end of the year. We're actively meeting with them to get their grading operation in place. It's going to be a fantastic shot in the arm to the El Corazon Park area. I'm really excited to have that arena built there. It will host sporting events, community events. It's got about a 36,000 square foot outdoor patio area as well. Right next to the aquatic center that I mentioned earlier in my presentation. A lot of activity happening at El Corazon, largely in partnership with our development partner, Cbad Properties, who has some of the development rights out in that area. As was mentioned earlier, at least in the conversation at my table, Alta Oceanside project. This happens to be located right across the street from In-N-Out on Coast Highway, right across the street from our Chamber of Commerce building, and was the site of the city's last former strip club, which was recently torn down. So we're excited about that. 309 residential units. The developer on this one is Wood Partners. In addition, within those 309 units are 26 very low income apartments. So we're really excited that this developer came and built this wonderful project on what was certainly an underappreciated site, and actually providing 26 very low-income units as part of that development without asking for any sort of a subsidy from the city. So win-win for all. That project is now under construction. Really excited about that. I think it's really going to change the makeup of the North Coast Highway stretch of our city. Stone's throw from that project is the Marriott Residence Inn. This one was hung up at the Coastal Commission, but I'm pleased to report this is actually on the site of the Flying Bridge Hotel property there, right on North Coast Highway. You can't miss it off the 5 freeway, the old restaurant building there. Stone's throw from the Alta Oceanside project. We just got final clearance from the Coastal Commission last week, so they are all set to go on this one here as well. Really excited to see this property turn over. Fairfield Inn and Suites project on Oceanside Boulevard, just west of the I-5 freeway, should be starting construction within about the next 6 months. Now I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about some long-range planning programs going on in Oceanside. We are right in the middle of a comprehensive general plan update program, which we're really excited about. Our general plan dates from the 1980s, so to be able to finally get to the point of updating our long-range plans for the community is a pretty exciting affair. One of the things I think that this plan is going to do, in addition to updating the general plan, we're working on what we call a Smart Sustainable Corridors plan, focusing a lot of future development along Mission Avenue, Coast Highway, Oceanside Boulevard, and Vista Way. If you haven't, I would highly encourage you to take a look at those planning documents. There's going to be quite a bit of investment along those corridors, I believe, in the years to come, as we introduce additional development opportunities in place of some of the aging commercial strip centers that we have along those corridors. Finally, wanted to mention that we are also working on a local coastal program update. Obviously dealing with the Coastal Commission these days is a very sensitive topic. We have been working on our local coastal program update for probably about close to the last 5 years. We have hit some sticking points with the Coastal Commission. I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about managed retreat and the Coastal Commission's position on that. I did actually, as I was sitting here, just heard from my staff that the Coastal Commission is going to be releasing some policy guidance next week. They're actually now apparently shying away from the term managed retreat, and they're calling it phased adaptation. So, if you hear phased adaptation, you know what's being talked about. I will tell you that as far as Oceanside is concerned, this has been a huge sticking point for us. Certainly our city has no appetite for introducing or embracing managed retreat. The approach that we've taken with the Coastal Commission on this issue is that these sea level rise projections are quite some time out into the future. We do believe that it makes a lot of sense to really plan within what I would call the known period of time, whether it's a 10-year increment or a 15-year increment, and plan accordingly as opposed to trying to plan out for what might happen 40 or 50 years from now, which doesn't make any sense. So in that sense, we are actually talking about, ironically, phased adaptation in our local coastal plan. I will tell you that Oceanside does enjoy some luxuries that other coastal communities don't have in terms of the amount of local discretion that we have in terms of dealing with some of our coastal properties. The Coastal Commission clearly does not like that fact, and as we've told them many times before, if push comes to shove and we can't come to terms with the Coastal Commission in terms of what we would like to see in our local coastal planning documents, as many other cities have, we will just walk away from the program altogether rather than lose any of our local discretion that we currently enjoy. So with that, I will go ahead and end it there, and I look forward to any questions that you might have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was great. A lot of good things going on in Oceanside. And if you haven't been to those new resorts right by the pier, they're beautiful. The seabird is stunning. I think it's great that they kept the Top Gun house. But for any of you who know the scene that was filmed there, it always was a dessert shop. I'm just saying. So, a couple questions for you both. Now, you were ending, Jonathan, on the topic of managed retreat and the stuff going on at the coast. SDAR has taken a very big leadership role on issues with sea level rise and all that kind of stuff, and they're very engaged in this issue that you were bringing up. And so Mayor Matt Hall, why don't we jump to you on that same topic? Where's your city at with updating your policies in regards to those kind of issues with the Coastal Commission and the sea level rise and all that kind of stuff?
So we are currently doing that. One of the things I think is kind of interesting, and today this is really one of the topics, but dating back to Jim Wood, when Jim Wood was the mayor, and then after that Chuck Lowry, Peter Wise, we've always had a conversation about could we work together on coastal preservation. So anytime you think of a coastline, it's much, much greater than any one city. So if you're going to take something like that on, I think you need to look at it at least Oceanside, Carlsbad, and perhaps Encinitas and South. So one of the conversations that we have had is we both do dredging. They dredge the harbor, we dredge Bataquitas Lagoon, the state, or Agua Hedionda Lagoon, the state dredges Bataquitas Lagoon. None of those ever get dredged to the full capacity that they should be. For whatever reason, permits are late, they bring the wrong piece of equipment, so on and so forth. If we took a more collaborative approach where we maybe took over the dredging aspect of things and had a dredge that could perhaps work up and down the coastline in conjunction with some sort of a piping system where you could literally mine the sand all the way from Oceanside. Eventually, Buena Vista Lagoon is going to be dredged. Agua Hedionda Lagoon is going to need to be dredged on a periodic basis. Bataquitas Lagoon obviously needs dredging. It's, like I say, it's never been pumped to its full needs. So we have a lot of coastal resources that I think could be, with the proper way of piping, you could really maintain the coastline just off the resources we have available to us. But that's going to take a conversation, a lot of collaboration.
And obviously, from SDAR's perspective, protecting property owner rights in those areas is very important, and so it is much appreciated taking firm stance as both your cities have to do that. So thank you for that. Jonathan, we'll start with you on this question. SB 9 and 10 are two hot button bills that were recently signed into law. Of course, the goal is to bring more housing units online. That's what the goal of those two bills were. But SB 9 would allow for lot splits and duplexes on parcels that are currently zoned single-family units. So how do you see these impacting your community? And we'll go to Mayor Matt Hall second after.
Yeah, well, certainly, both bills generated quite a lot of interest in our community, a lot of questions that were raised in terms of the impacts that they would have, particularly on our single-family neighborhoods. We've done some preliminary analysis. There's been some analysis done by third parties that are out there as well. We don't really see that big of an impact, at least initially. I think by some estimates, we were looking at maybe only like 6% of properties that might, be inclined to turn over within that regard, but it really kind of remains to be seen. We haven't really seen that much interest yet from the development community asking questions about it. I would say, by far, at least from our city's perspective, the ADU provisions are, much more popular and much more attainable, I think, for most property owners. I mean, at the end of the day, any of you that have dealt with subdivision or development, it's not an easy feat under any circumstance to subdivide property and development. I mean, there's a lot of planning, a lot of resources. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure that SB 9 or 10 will result in much.
Mayor Matt Hall.
So Sacramento causes us a lot of frustration, way beyond these two set of bills here. So Carlsbad has always been known for its growth management plan. When you think of affordable housing, we have produced more affordable housing than any other city dating back to 1990, with the exception of the city of San Diego. So we think our plan was, and how we wanted to develop, it was very unique unto ourselves, and it's a lot of frustration when a state comes in and starts to broad brush how you're going to do land use. I don't think it will give us the quality of life that we have today. Now, with that said, the idea of ADUs, I think we're all in strong support of that. But in Carlsbad, especially in the 92008 zip code, there are a lot of large lots that are right now single-family residential that you could see development in. And I think that is a concern. There is a lot of conversation about this and what that might look like in the future.
We're going to switch from the state's impact to the counties, and we're going to start with Mayor Matt Hall on this one. We're talking SANDAG, the San Diego Association of Governments. They are working to advance a regional plan update that calls for a significant new investment in transit at a price tag of more than $160 billion, with a B, $160 billion. So how would this plan impact your city And is it worth the investment, especially considering the new taxes and fees included as part of the plan? Mayor Matt Hall.
So what we're talking about here is extremely complex. I know the conversation really is about the VMT tax, but the other thing that we need to be concerned about is the multimodal hubs. They have looked along in our city, they've looked along the Palomar corridor and have put in as one of the future hubs from their perspective, where they programmed 3,000 new units. Now those 3,000 new units are in and around the airport where you can't build housing. They're in an open space lot that's a dedicated hardline open space lot. And they're where the Westin and the Sheraton hotels, which have just been built here in the last 5 years. So a lot of their preliminary work and how they get to the vehicles miles traveled number, which we're supposed to try in the future get underneath this imaginary number as we do our climate action plans and so on and so forth, that is a concern, primary concern to us. The other thing that's extremely frustrating to me, and I've been on Sandag probably 14 years, but it's an agency that really is doing long-range planning. And based off that long-range planning, each of our cities also have to do plans. So in our case, the I-5 corridor, and I won't get into East County because they have the same issues, but the I-5 corridor is something that I personally have been working on since December of 1994. In 2008, it went through the Coastal Commission. It was the largest environmental document ever done by the state of California. It was studied at 16 lanes. It was unanimously approved at 14 lanes. Shortly thereafter, the Kehoe bill reduced it to 12 lanes with the understanding that we had built the coastal rail trail or the coastal rail corridor out in conjunction with I-5 to 12 lanes. Today, under their plan, it looks to be 10 lanes. We don't know when in the plan, if ever, that they'll do the 78 and 5 interchange. Also, under the original plan, it was to go as Highway 76. Today, it's only going to go to Highway 78. So with all that said, you cannot take a piece of infrastructure that all these studies have been done to know and understand this is what we need as a basic amount of traffic lanes. Keep in mind the Mexico border and the San Diego Harbor. The tonnage that's going to come out of those from those two areas goes up 350%. All but 5% of that's scheduled to go by truck. So that's 515 around Highway 8. So what I believe is that they're being very narrow-minded when it comes to basic infrastructure that we're going to need to move forward. So what happens when you don't build the infrastructure? Roads like El Camino Real and other highways start to take the bypass traffic that would have traveled on I-5. Or Palomar and other roads in Rancho Santa Fe start to take the bypass traffic that should be on the Highway 78. The other thing is in all agencies, it's really about your credibility. And it's tough to talk about this, but it doesn't go unnoticed that about 6 months ago, we came up with a policy that all future work would be done through project labor agreements. So we can associate whatever number you want to that 15, 20, 25% of what the additional cost is when you do that. And you look at this plan of 160, whatever, $5 billion, 275 at build out, probably at least 40% of that is going to be in labor. These are billion-dollar numbers. We get to the point that we're ready to approve the plan, and we ask staff, what is your proposal on how to finance this besides the vehicle miles traveled? And they're proposing a sales tax increase also. Well, in the past, and I've been through this 2 times before that, we spent at least a year studying how that should be worded, what the promises are, so on and so forth. We get to this point, and they say,
Well, we haven't been told to do that. But in the same breath, or in the same time, you hear the private sector, i.e. the same people that received benefit project labor agreements 6 months ago, saying we're going to do a citizens initiative. So all I can say is that it's very frustrating to me, after promising for the better part of 25 years that multiple roadways need to be expanded, and these aren't being expanded to 16 lanes, we're just trying to get it to 12 lanes, which was the least number that was ever modeled here in North County, not to mention 67 and a whole host of other infrastructure throughout the region. So for me, it's been a very frustrating period of time. You can probably sense that in my voice. It's also the credibility is just not there. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the citizens of San Diego County think about this as we go forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Hall. Jonathan?
Yeah, actually, I would echo everything that Mayor Hall said in terms of our city's perspective. I think we're certainly in lockstep. Our city council passed a resolution essentially objecting to any tax increases to fund these transportation improvements. I think they did that last year. In addition to that, we do have significant concerns about the current plans, which appear not to continue the I-5 widening further north than the 78. It doesn't make any sense in our minds whatsoever to come this far only to end it there. And all we're asking for is essentially that last segment between the 78 and Camp Pendleton to be completed as well. In addition to that, we'd also like to see some improvements made to Highway 76, which is another major east-west corridor that serves our city. It suffers from tremendous congestion. There is limited right-of-way out there, but we do have some creative solutions, but certainly need Sandag on board to help us through that issue as well.
And I'll just echo from the Carlsbad Chamber's perspective, our frustration. Some of the plan calls for them to take existing general use lanes and remove those and make them managed lanes. So lanes that we already have might be going away. It's a very challenging plan. And I know we're out of time for this portion of our presentation today, so please give a hand to our guest speakers.